Hi, I'm Delusion Dispeller. I kind of left my hair unstraightened for these videos because what I'm about to talk to you about is very erratic and just out of the ordinary, wacky, out of control, kind of like my hair looks a little bit today. So I thought maybe that would go along well with the topic that I'm going to be discussing. Okay, the topic is covert incest and family dynamics. I realized when I was doing the research for this video series that I had some blame in how my original marriage worked out. I didn't have a lot of blame, but I did have some blame. And actually, I won't call it blame, I'll say responsibility. There were things that I did that fed into the unhealthy dynamic of my ex-husband and one of my daughters. And that formed some of the issues that we see even today in my children. Some of it was controllable, some of it probably not. And the truth is, when in this situation, you don't always know what to do. And even counselors didn't know what advice to give me regarding what I was going through, other than, oh, I wouldn't put up with that, I would do this or that, or I would leave him. And as you all probably know, it's very easy for people to say, well, leave somebody, but if you have nowhere to go, you're leaving, but where are you going? You know, that kind of thing. Okay. Which is why it took me 23 years to finally leave the marriage situation of the past. Okay. Um, it was interesting doing this research because of the types of links towards this covert incest situation that I never would have thought could somehow have something to do with this. Let's talk about first what covert incest even is. That might be a good way to start with a definition of it. What covert incest is basically where a parent turns one of the children into a surrogate parent because they cannot get their needs met from their spouse. This happened in my former marriage, and I know a lot of other situations it's happened in, and it's very unhealthy, very destructive, and just not a good thing at all. Now, what's interesting is it's called the Botkin syndrome, and it's based on an actual family with the last name Botkin. One of the men in this family were part of a cult years ago, and part of something called the shepherding movement, and that basically in a nutshell means that whoever runs the cult is in charge of everything. He tells the people who they can marry, what jobs they can take, what they can eat, what they can do as far as a job, or I already said what jobs they can take, but basically has ultimate control. And he did leave this cult. However, either he or his forefather, whatever you want to call it, one of the Botkin family male members that was in this cult or were related to the person in this cult did take some of the things that he learned and incorporate them into not only his family but into an actual website that is online today. Something with the word vision in it. I can't remember what it is. But if you message me privately, I'll look it up and let you know. However, it's not something I encourage you to go into on your own, especially if you've come from an abusive past. A link to this whole covert incest thing is the idea that there is a patriarchy, which means all the family members have to submit to the father figure's vision. And if there is no father figure, or he is not the capable one to be the father figure, then the daughters are encouraged to find a male role model elsewhere, a male father figure. Now, this definitely took place in my life, as I have spiritual fathers. I have looked at priests like father figures. It's not something where my father told me, now go and look for a father figure, or my mother. It was just something I did on my own because I felt neglected by my father. But it's still the same dynamic, that there's this attitude in a girl, a little girl, and as she gets older, that she has to have a man to submit to and obey. At least in my case, that was the situation. Now, the thing that I found disturbing was one of the teachings in this type of patriarchy is that Jesus was homeschooled by his father, God, and that we are to homeschool all of our children too. Now, I did homeschool my children. However, I didn't do it with the same reasoning that this Botkin family does it. My children both went to school and were homeschooled at various times throughout their education. But it wasn't in the sense of me feeling that, you know, none of the schools were ever teaching right things. A lot of times it was more out of protection for my children that were being hurt by other children, and the school wouldn't do anything about it. It was to teach my children Christian morals and values and not to subject them to some of the curriculum that I didn't agree with. Yes, that was true. But it wasn't for the same reason that the patriarchal type people do it, that they feel that this way they can hone the children into being obedient little animatrons, basically. Another thing, the Bill Gothard teachings were linked with this patriarchal teaching, and I understand why, because he talks about how dangerous it is for a child to get out from under the umbrella of protection of their parent, their father actually. And I was taught that when I lived with my foster parents. However, here's the difference. When you have a father figure that is balanced and healthy, there's not as much of a problem with you submitting and trusting and obeying in a situation like that as there would be with a father that feels, you know, oh, women were just here to serve the man, and women were taken out of Adam's side, so you have to, you know, be submissive to me and subservient to me and bow down to me. Then obviously that's out of context and used as a manipulative and abusive type thing and a controlling type thing, and that is not at all, I believe, what God had in mind with that. I very much believe that women and men should be treated equally. I do believe men are better than women at some things, but I also believe women can be better at men than men at some things. The whole patriarchal attitude is that women are viewed as the weaker sex. Part of that means women are to stay home and have the children and not to work outside the home. Interestingly enough, the Bible contradicts this in Proverbs 31, where it talks about a woman who was in the marketplace and made her own linens and sold them in the marketplace. So I don't think that it can be totally justified at all as a viable belief or something we need to stick to. Okay, I'm going to go in the next video. I'm going to talk a little bit about parenting and some unhealthy methods of parenting and some healthy things about parenting, and we're just going to continue going from there, because this is quite an interesting series that I'm working on here. Very interesting to do the research on it. I got very drawn into it for a while and could definitely, as I said, see some things that I did wrong, definite things that my ex-husband did wrong, and positions that the children were put in or took on their own behalf that were unhealthy and out of balance and dysfunctional. So, and I'll share more about that as we go on. Anyways, I'm going to continue, as I said, with a little bit more about parenting, healthy, unhealthy, etc. Stay tuned for that next video. As always, if you're in a dangerous situation, please talk to a safe person. Remove yourself if it is safe to do so. If it is not, talk to somebody about it and get the help that you need and deserve. Do not keep the family secrets, because it is the things that stay hidden and secretive that are often the most dangerous. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned.